here with another Blogorail Chat. This week we're going to talk about saving money. That's always an important discussion. Tonight we've got joining with us Becca from Love Our Crazy Life, Mike from Mike. Did I get it right? Becca.
Becca from Love Our Crazy Life. Yes.
Just checking. Mike from My Dreams of Disney, and myself, Mary from Capturing Magical Memories. So we're going to kick this off, and we'll see where this goes. Are you ready, everybody?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Come on. Bring it on.
Okay. So my first question is, when you start to plan for Disney, so when that first inkling gets into your head, where do you start to go?
I don't know how much you guys know, but my blog started specifically was started because I want to share how to go to Disney for cheaper. And that's the whole reason I started blogging. And so this is kind of like my passion, is going to Disney for less money. And where to start is you just have to start with doing research. Get on, find out how much the packages are through Disney, and then start looking around and seeing if you can find better deals. And start looking at blogs that talk about going to Disney for cheaper. Start looking up travel sites that you've heard of from other people, talking to friends, talk to people you know that have gone and seen what they have done in order to save money, and if they thought it was worth it, because it's going to ruin your vacation by saving money. You don't want to do it, but that's where you need to start. I don't know, Mike, do you have somewhere else you start, or
See, for me, the planning always starts in the dream phase. Okay, so for me, my first place I go is to the Disney website, and I do that primarily because I want to build up the excitement of, oh my gosh, I want to ride that, I want to see that, I want to do this, I want to eat this, and I got to get that pumping, So I always start at the Disney website. And before I became a travel agent, my wife and I didn't really know anything about staying on site because we had never done that before. So we actually booked straight through Disney. But there's a lot of resources, and there's 1.5 million blogs, all devoted to both Disneyland and Walt Disney World. And what experience has taught me is you're not going to find many places where you're going to get a good deal on saving money for tickets, because it's just not there. And if you find a site that says that you can save money on tickets and you should buy them through this, then you really got to be careful, because chances are it's a scam. So you got to be really careful of that. But,
we should just put it out there. Never buy off eBay or Craigslist.
They just arrested some guy for this, didn't they?
They have. There's been several. Yeah, there's been several that have been arrested for it, for saying they had tickets that they had days left in selling them, and it doesn't work at Disney World. You got to give a fingerprint, and at Disneyland they take your picture with an iPod. It's not going to work. Don't try and buy partially used tickets.
Right.
Now, I guess the one thing you could do, but we've done it before, but you're betting, and that's the August ticket price increase, and you can buy your tickets a little bit before August, and they're still good after August, but you may save that, but you're betting on them because Disney never releases price increases, but it saves a little bit.
Yeah, and I just wrote about that recently in an article too, that if you're going to go next year in 2017, buy your tickets before March, because I think this year the price increase was March, I think, or maybe that was last year. One of these years it was March. So buy your ticket before March, and it'll be good through the end of the year. In fact, you can buy tickets now that are good through 2017. So that's one of the things I just wrote about in going to Disneyland for cheap. So.
The good thing about the influx of social media on everything is that there are a lot of people and a lot of sites on Facebook and whatnot where there's all sorts of fan pages that you can hang out on and figure out information. And the nice thing is, even when Disney doesn't really announce exactly when they're going to be releasing that price upgrade, usually someone finds out, and it spreads like wildfire all over Facebook, and at least a couple days in advance. And you're right. If you buy them now, even if you're not, if you're able to and you can buy them now, you're buying them with today's prices, and they don't expire until the 14 days after you first start using them. So you could hold them to the 2026 or whatever, and then use them, and they'd still be good. So.
Yeah. Now, Disneyland is a little different. They do you have to have your first use date by December 31st, 2017.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's the one thing that's a little different at Disneyland. But
Good conversation.
we're kind of like taking over on you, Mary.
Well, I was thinking about anything on rooms. We've talked about tickets. I know there's the packages. Before I was telling them before this started that I chose to go to Disney because I saw that I could get a room for $89. So I did the reverse planning technique. Was ooh deal, go to Disney. But are there any
Disney
places?
math, isn't it, Mary?
Well, it's all Becca's fault, but that's another story. I was looking, but are there other places for room deals?
Well, Disneyland, you do get once in a while room deals on property, but Disneyland, basically all their hotels are what Walt Disney World would call deluxe. So they're still expensive even with a discount, but you can get really good deals off property. Yeah. And one of my favorite things, Disneyland is not a big deal to be off property, and that's why
because it's so much.
Yeah, it's so much, and also it's like there's so many hotels that are basically across the street. In fact, there are hotels that are closer to the entrances than the Disney hotels. So, so it's not a big deal. And because the parks are so close together, it's not like you have to go far away. You can still stay in that bubble, even if you're staying off-site. It's just at night. You're not in that bubble. That's one of our favorite ways to stay. In fact, we usually stay even a little farther away in Buena Park. And we can get rooms there, 3.5-star hotels for $70, $80 a night by doing that. And so we do that, and if we stay that far away, we don't have to pay for parking at the hotel, and then it makes up for having to pay for parking at Disneyland. So that's our little trick that we do, and that saves us huge amount on our trips.
Yeah, you know, the Good Neighbor Hotel concept at Disneyland is so perfected because they didn't have all that economy of space, you know, like they do at Disney World. And it's really neat that, you know, like I said, as a travel agent, you can go under the site and you can price out packages with the Good Neighbors just as easily as you can the Disneyland Hotel or whatever. Perspective of Disney World, they're actually trying to incorporate that whole Good Neighbor concept a little bit more. Now, before we started going and staying on property, we weren't really go to Disney World for 5, 6, 7 days or whatever. We were more like go for a 2-day visit or whatever. And like I said, back then I didn't know anything hardly at all, and so we were staying like at a Hampton Inn in downtown Orlando, and we're like, you got to drive 45 minutes at least to get to the park. And I'm like, why did we do this? But that was us, you know. That was me not knowing anything. So now it's a little bit better. And with Disney and with that area in specific having so many hotel rooms available, there's deals that can be found anywhere, you know. And they're not, you know, the cheap ones on 192 where you don't know who's been there and all that. There are really good hotels that you can get good.
So we're not talking about the Purple Hotel.
I don't know the Purple Hotel. I'll talk that story offline.
And the other great option, because I've looked at Walt Disney World, we've never been, but I've looked at Walt Disney World, and one great option is vacation rentals too, home rentals.
Oh yeah.
There's lots of condos right around that area, so right around the parks, and so you can rent that. You can do that in Disneyland for now, but Anaheim just passed a law that they're not going to allow rentals in Anaheim anymore, so that's going to go away pretty soon here. But that's one way to save big and have your own kitchen and everything if you're not lucky enough to be a DVC member, you know, and you want the full condo. You can go through like HomeAway and those types of sites to book.
We actually my husband and I's first date was at Walt Disney World, and we actually rented a condo 4-bedroom condo for 2 people. It was great. What was it? Vacation Rentals by Owner, vrbo.com.
Yeah.
And it was great. It worked perfectly. As I said, we had way too much room, but we did. We were able to cook. It had all that space outside. It definitely was worth it, and it was a lot cheaper than staying on site.
Yeah, it's a great way, especially for large groups, because you can get, like you said, 4 bedrooms, things like that, for around $100 a night. So it's pretty good.
So moving on, quickly, I wanted to talk about anything on getting to Disney. Anything on airfare? Is it going cheaper by car? What do you think, Mike? I'll let you kick that one off.
Well, I live in Raleigh, North Carolina, so for me, driving is a lot cheaper. Although, you know, our daughter just spent 2 weeks visiting her friend in Sherman Oaks, and when we were sending her over there and all that, we were just playing around with some numbers, and there was like airfare from Raleigh to Orlando for like $69 one way. It was insane, and we never see it that cheap from Raleigh. It's always like Dulles, you know, in DC or somewhere like that where it's a lot cheaper. But for us, we've always driven. I've never even stepped foot on a Magical Express bus. So that's just for a Disney World, that's just crazy, you know. But we've always driven. So for us, driving is always cheaper, and we get there in 10 hours, and we're there anyway. So, you know, so that's just the way we go.
You know what? That's what we do too. We have a family of 5, and so we can usually drive to Disneyland for the price of one person's round trip ticket. I mean, we've flown once or twice, but we normally drive, and it's not super close for us. We drive it's about 17 hours with stops, but we drive overnight so that the kids sleep. And for us, it's just money-wise, it's right now. It would be cheaper for me if I wanted to go Walt Disney World to drive, but that's where you have to go. How much is my time worth? And my time is not worth 2 days of driving. And you know, especially if you only have a week vacation, that's where you have to, you know. So it's a fine line between saving money and time. So you have to kind of look at that and decide. And then also depends what kind of vehicle you're driving. Is your vehicle, you know, are you going to have to rent a vehicle in order to make the trip? Mm-hmm. And we've actually rented vehicles before to make the trip when we have brought other people with us, and it's still been cheaper than flying sometimes. So you just have to, it's where your research comes in. You have to do your research, and you have to figure out what's best for you and your family, both financially and time-wise. So.
We've done both. Most of the time nowadays, it's like everybody else. Since there's 4 of us now, driving, and from here it's 16 to 18 hours, and we do the overnight stop. We've started now taking the kids straight from school, and we drive until they fall asleep, and then pick up the next morning. So we've started doing that process. But with Spirit Airlines, you were talking about some cheap pricing.
Yeah.
You play the game if it's going to be a short trip. If you don't have to check luggage, or you can manage that, then it's definitely worth it. But once you get into the longer trips, the car and being able to take everything we want and not having to be able to rent a car is great. But one thing I did want to mention is that Magical Express you were talking about, because in my trip I'm coming up, I am flying, got a good rate on Southwest, but I'm not going to rent a car there. And so it's great not having to pay transportation. The first time I went to Disney, I had to pay. It was before Magical Express, and that was $50 each way on Mir at the time. Mm-hmm. So that, I mean, right there you save $100.
Yeah. Yeah, the Magical Express into Walt Disney World, you need to fly into Orlando International. So if you're booking your flights now, it's airport code MCO, and have your travel agent or speak to the Disney person if you're going straight through Disney. You need to arrange for that. So they'll take your airline information, and you go to the kiosk at the airport, and they load your luggage for you automatically. They take you to your resort, and your luggage is automatically taken for you. You don't have to worry about it. You just enjoy the ride over, and the magic starts the moment you probably get on that bus, or maybe even when you check in at the kiosk. And then they'll take you back too. And it's just, for Disney, it's a service that they really need to replicate over at Disneyland, because they don't do that, and that's just to me, that's just amazing. They don't do that over there.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's though. There are a lot more drivers for Disneyland. A lot of people drive because on the West Coast, that's just kind of what we do. We drive. You know, we have that really pretty drive. You take that West Coast down, and you just enjoy the 101 the whole way down.
Are you knocking my drive through Mississippi and Alabama? Oh, come on.
Not at all, but if I can drive the ocean the whole way down, I'll do that any day.
I will tell you on my drive, the Panhandle is the world's longest drive. That Panhandle in Florida, I think it's 6 hours. It just kills us.
Well, it is a long drive.
And you're like, no.
That is a long drive, but I got to tell you, Mary and Becca, when you're coming from Raleigh, you get to Raleigh and you get down to South Carolina. South Carolina is 189 miles to get from the north part of South Carolina till you get to Georgia. And I am telling you, you feel every bump in the road. And it is painful. That part of the trip is just absolutely a nightmare. And I don't mean to be, I'm not dissing South Carolina. That's the worst part of the trip.
I have a funny feeling I see a road trip Blogorail chat in the future.
There you go.
So we're now at the park.
We'll all hook our dashboard cams up.
There we go.
Well, thank you, everybody. I think this was a good discussion, really good discussion. Probably one we could do another session on. There's so much to talk about here. So I want to say thanks for everybody for joining in tonight, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.